The Star Voyager drifted through the endless night of space, its engines hum a steady reminder of the journey ahead. Captain Elara Hawke stood at the helm, staring out at the stars, her mind on the mission. For days, the crew had been chasing an anomalous signal, faint but persistent, coming from an unexplored region known only as the Abyss. "Captain, Ensign Cara Ruiz," voice interrupted her thoughts. "We've detected the signal again. This time, it's stronger." Lyra's grip tightened on the console. "Is it from the Abyss?" "Yes," Ruiz replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "It's coming from deep within, but it's hard to pinpoint. It's like something is pulling us in." A chill ran down Lyra's spine. The Abyss was a place of mystery and danger. They had no idea what lay beyond the event horizon. But one thing was clear: the signal had been leading them here, and it would be foolish to turn back now. "Set a course for the signal," Lyra commanded. "We're going in." The Star Voyager slowly adjusted its course, its sleek form cutting through the stars toward the unknown. The crew felt the weight of the journey ahead. What they would find in the Abyss could change everything. The crew of the Star Voyager had reached the heart of the Abyss. The signal was now impossible to ignore, a constant, pulsing presence that seemed to reach out to them from the very core of the darkness. Elara Hawke stood at the helm, her fingers tight around the console as she stared at the growing readouts. "I don't like this," Commander Soren muttered. "This doesn't feel like a normal signal. It feels alive." "We're deep in unexplored territory," Elara replied, her voice steady but cautious. "But we have to find out who or what is sending this signal. We can't turn back now." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, but the tension in the air was palpable. They were about to uncover something that could change the course of the galaxy. The Star Voyager continued its slow journey deeper into the Abyss. The crew remained on high alert as the signal became louder, more insistent, as if trying to communicate something important. The atmosphere on the bridge was thick with anticipation. Captain Elara Hawke remained calm, her focus unwavering despite the growing unease. "We're entering a region with no recorded history," Lieutenant Jai said, his voice tense as he scanned the readings. "It's like nothing we've seen before." "Wells," the ship's science officer spoke up from her station. "I'm detecting strange fluctuations in the fabric of space itself. It's not just the signal. It's something bigger. It's as if the very laws of physics are bending around us." Elara's gaze never wavered from the forward view of the Abyss. "What are we looking at, Wells?" "It's hard to explain, Captain. The signal, it's tied to something ancient. Something that shouldn't be here." "We need to get closer," Elara said, her voice steady despite the rising tension. "Prepare to engage the thrusters for a closer inspection." As the Star Voyager drew closer to the source of the signal, the ship's systems began to flicker. A strange hum filled the air, emanating from the core of the Abyss. The crew's instruments began to malfunction, and the sense of unease grew stronger with each passing moment. "Captain, we're being pulled in," Cara Ruiz said, her voice strained. "The gravitational pull is too strong. We can't get away." Elara glanced at the view screen, where the swirling darkness of the Abyss consumed everything. "Prepare the shields," she ordered. "We'll need to stabilize the ship before it's too late." Rook, standing by the weapon station, looked at Elara. "We're not alone in here, Captain. There's something else. Something lurking beneath the signal." The crew felt it then. A presence in the Abyss. It wasn't just the signal, and it wasn't just the forces at play. Something, alive, ancient, and dangerous, was waiting for them. "Shields are holding," Wells reported, her voice strained. "But the energy readings are off the charts. This isn't just gravitational. The very fabric of space is warping around us. We're caught in something unnatural." Elara stood firm, gripping the armrest of her chair. "What do we know about the source of the signal?" Ruiz looked up from her console. "It's coming from a massive structure beneath the surface of the Abyss, a construction, artificial in nature. It's almost as if it's been waiting for us." A chill ran down Elara's spine. "Can we trace the source of the signal? Pinpoint the exact location?" Wells adjusted the scanners, her eyes wide. We're too close. The interference is overwhelming, but there is something down there. Something ancient. Rook, ever the pragmatist, spoke up. Whatever it is, it's powerful. We need to approach with caution. We're going in, Elara said, determination in her voice. Get ready, everyone. This could be the discovery of a lifetime, or our final mission. The crew exchanged glances, knowing this was the point of no return. They were about to uncover the greatest mystery in the galaxy, if they survived long enough to see it. The Star Voyager crept deeper into the abyss, its shields humming as they fought against the relentless pull of the strange gravitational force. The crew stood at their stations, faces tense as the ship's instruments fluctuated wildly, displaying erratic readings. The pulse of the mysterious signal grew stronger, almost suffocating the ship as it closed in on its source. Captain, Wells said, her voice strained. This isn't just a signal. It's a signal from something alive, something intelligent. I'm not sure it's a beacon anymore. Alive? Elara's voice was steady but edged with concern. Do you mean there's a living entity down here? I can't be sure, Wells replied, eyes glued to the data. But the way the signal interacts with the ship's systems, it's almost as if it's aware of us. The walls of the bridge trembled, and the crew exchanged uneasy glances. Rook stood by the weapons station, his gaze never leaving the dark expanse ahead. We're not the only ones here, Captain. We need to prepare ourselves for anything. Elara nodded. Keep the course steady. We need to find the source of this signal, no matter the cost. The crew braced themselves, knowing they were on the cusp of discovering something beyond their understanding. We're getting closer, Rui said, her eyes focused on the star chart. The signal's origin is coming from a massive structure. It's unlike anything in our database. We have no record of this kind of technology. Wells leaned over her scanner, her face pale. This structure isn't just old, it's ancient. It predates anything we've ever studied. Whatever's inside, it's been waiting for us. How long? Elara asked, her eyes narrowing as the ship's forward view showed a faint outline of the structure. Thousands of years, Wells replied softly. Maybe longer. The silence on the bridge deepened. The crew knew they were about to uncover something monumental, something that could change the future of their civilization, for better or for worse. Prepare for a slow approach, Elara said, her voice cutting through the tension. We don't know what we're walking into. Rook stepped forward, his hand on his weapon. This could get dangerous, Captain. Elara gave him a brief nod. Stay alert. The crew descended into the depths of the ancient structure, their steps echoing through the hollow halls. The walls, covered in strange alien markings, pulsed with faint energy. The air was thick with the smell of decay, yet there was an undeniable sense of power within these walls. Keep your eyes open, Elara whispered, her voice barely audible as they moved deeper into the structure. We don't know what kind of defenses it might have. Nothing in the scans indicates life, Wells said, her voice trembling slightly as she checked her equipment. But these readings, they don't make sense. This place, it's not just old, it's alive. Alive? Rook repeated. You mean the structure itself? Wells nodded, a cold shiver running down her spine. Yes. The signal, it's embedded into the structure. It's almost like the building is communicating with us. Elara motioned for the crew to keep moving. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. We're here to uncover the truth. The crew entered a vast central chamber, its ceiling stretching impossibly high. In the center of the room stood a massive glowing object, a sphere of black stone covered in intricate patterns. The air hummed with energy, the signal they had been tracking emanating from it. This is it, Elara said, her voice full of awe. This is the source. Wells stepped forward, scanning the object. The energy levels are off the charts. This isn't just a power source. It's something more. It's a connection. Rook kept his hand near his weapon. A connection to what? Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them shook, and the sphere began to glow brighter. A deep, resonating hum filled the air, and the room seemed to pulse with life. "We've triggered something," Ruiz said, her eyes wide. "It's reacting to us." "Prepare for anything," Elara ordered. "Stay close." The hum of the sphere grew louder, and the entire structure seemed to respond, its walls vibrating with a growing intensity. Suddenly, the sphere's energy flared, sending a shockwave through the room. The crew was thrown back, their bodies crashing into the walls as the ground trembled beneath them. "Status report," Elara shouted, pushing herself up from the floor. "We're alive," Ruiz said, gasping for air. "But the sphere is..." Before she could finish, the sphere pulsed again, and a blinding light filled the room. The crew shielded their eyes as the light intensified, and the air crackled with static. "I think it's speaking to us," Wells said, her voice shaky. "It's trying to communicate, but I can't understand it. We need to get out of here," Rook shouted, his voice filled with panic. "This is too much." But Elara, still holding her ground, shook her head. "No, we stay. This is what we came for. Whatever this is, we're going to unlock its secrets." The Star Voyager crew staggered back, their bodies still recovering from the shockwave as the black sphere continued to pulse with intense energy. The entire chamber seemed alive now, vibrating in sync with the hum that emanated from the sphere. Elara steadied herself, her hand gripping the console as she forced her team to focus. "We need to get this under control," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Wells, analyze that signal. Find out what it's trying to tell us." Wells nodded, adjusting her equipment, but her hands were shaking. "The signal, it's encoding information. It's not just a transmission, it's something. It's like a memory." "Memory?" Ruiz echoed, her brow furrowed. "Of what?" "I don't know," Wells admitted, her voice strained. "But I think it's from someone or something else. Something that's been here for a long time." The room trembled again, more violently this time, as the sphere continued its rhythmic pulse. "It's activating something," Rook said, eyes narrowing as he watched the walls flicker. "We don't know what, but we need to get out of here, Captain." But Elara stood firm. "No, we're not leaving yet. We've come too far. We need to understand what this is." The intensity of the hum filled the room, and the crew could feel it deep in their bones. The black sphere's energy increased, making the air thick and electric. "I'm seeing something," Wells said, her voice rising in shock. "A holographic projection. It's showing us something. Someone." On the wall, a faint blue light began to coalesce, forming the image of a humanoid figure, tall, ethereal, and cloaked in shadows. The figure spoke, its voice deep and resonant, though there were no words, just an overwhelming feeling of ancient knowledge pouring into their minds. "Can you understand it?" Elara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Wells was silent for a long moment, her fingers working feverishly to decode the projections. "It's a message about the origin of this structure. It was a place of knowledge. A vault for a race long gone, maybe even extinct." Rook took a step forward, eyes narrowing. "So this is a tomb then?" Wells nodded slowly. "A tomb and a library. It's holding the memories of its creators, and it wants us to learn what they knew." The figure on the wall faded, but the message lingered in their minds, heavy with unspoken knowledge. The image flickered one last time before disappearing entirely, leaving the room once again in a silence that seemed to press against their ears. But something had changed. The air itself felt charged, filled with the weight of the knowledge they had just received. "Oh." Elara stood motionless, her mind racing. "This structure, this place, it's not just a relic. It's a gateway. A way to unlock the lost history of an entire civilization." "We need to go deeper," Wells said, almost in a trance. "There's more. The signal, the projections, they're only fragments. The truth is hidden, and we're just at the edge." Rook spoke up, his voice more cautious than usual. "And how much further do we go before we start disturbing something we can't control?" We control what we can, Elara replied. We take the information we can handle and proceed with caution. No one else has been here for millennia. But we won't know the whole story unless we move forward. The crew exchanged looks, each silently weighing the decision. Elara turned back to the path leading deeper into the structure. Prepare to move out. We're going deeper. The deeper they went, the more alien the structure became. The walls seemed to shift, and the floor beneath them creaked as though the entire place was waking up. They had reached a massive chamber, larger than anything they had encountered before. In the center of the room, a giant ancient console stood, its surface covered in alien writing and glowing symbols. Wells stepped forward, her fingers running across the console's surface. This is it. This is where it all began. These writings, they're the key to everything. Rook's voice cut through the tension. What? Should we trust it? Elara gave him a steady look. We don't have a choice. We either move forward or turn back without answers. The console hummed to life as Wells tapped a series of symbols, and the room filled with a sudden burst of energy. A holographic map appeared above the console, showing a star system light years away, marked by a symbol none of them recognized. The source of the signal, Wells said. It's directing us somewhere. As the map illuminated the room, Elara's thoughts raced. The coordinates pointed to a distant, uncharted region of space, a place no one had dared venture before. She turned to her crew, the weight of the decision hanging heavily in the air. This is it, Elara said, her voice firm. This is what we've been looking for. Whatever this is, it holds the answers. We're going to follow these coordinates. Captain Ruiz began. If we go there, we may never come back. This could be the end of us. I know, Elara replied, her gaze unwavering. But we can't stop now. Not when we're so close to understanding what happened here, what's waiting for us. Rook looked at her, then at the rest of the crew. Then let's make sure we're ready for whatever comes next. With that, Elara gave the order. Set a course, full speed ahead. The Star Voyager began to turn, heading toward the unknown. The abyss was behind them now, and ahead lay the answers to questions no one had dared ask. The Star Voyager raced through the vastness of space, the stars a blur as they followed the coordinates given by the alien map. The crew was on edge, still reeling from the discoveries they had made within the abyss. Elara stood at the helm, her hands steady on the controls as the ship hurtled toward an unknown part of the galaxy. Captain Cara Ruiz said, her voice breaking through the silence. We're approaching the coordinates. The readings are strange. The gravitational pull here is unlike anything we've experienced. Wells, sitting at the science station, nodded gravely. It's as if the laws of physics are distorted here. This region, it doesn't belong. Elara's gaze remained fixed on the viewport, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the console. Stay sharp. Whatever we find here, we can't afford to underestimate it. Suddenly, the ship shook violently, a deep rumble echoing through the hull. The stars outside the viewport flickered, and the ship's instruments flickered with erratic readings. Report. Elara barked. We're being pulled in, Ruiz shouted. Gravitational forces are increasing rapidly. We're losing control. The crew held on as the ship was pulled into the heart of the unknown. The Star Voyager was now caught in the grip of an unseen force, unable to break free. Elara's heart raced as the ship's systems flared and buzzed. The view outside the viewport was distorted, the stars twisted and stretched, as if the fabric of space itself was warping around them. Captain, we've entered the event horizon, Ruiz shouted. We're inside a massive gravitational field. Wells scrambled at her console, trying to make sense of the data. This isn't natural. There's no way this could exist naturally in this part of space. It's artificial, man-made. Artificial? Elara echoed, her voice steady. Who could build something like this? Before Wells could respond, a massive flash of light engulfed the ship, and the crew braced themselves for impact. The ship shuddered violently, its systems struggling to stay online. Get ready, Elara said, her voice calm but urgent. We're entering a completely unknown region. This could be it, the heart of the mystery. The ship was now inside the strange phenomenon. Outside the viewport, a vast, swirling mass of light and energy consumed everything. The stars were no longer visible. Instead, the crew found themselves surrounded by a glowing vortex, as if they were inside a storm of light and energy. "Captain," Ruiz said, her voice shaken. This is impossible. The laws of physics, they're being completely altered." "I don't care what it is," Elara said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We need to keep our heads. I've got a ship to command. Stay focused." Suddenly, the ship lurched, throwing the crew to the floor. Elara barely managed to hold onto the console as the ship's hull groaned under the strain. "We've lost control," Ruiz shouted. "We're going to crash." Elara's voice was calm, though her heart was pounding. "Brace for impact." The ship's hull groaned as it continued its descent into the heart of the vortex. Outside, the energy storm intensified, crackling with an unearthly power. The crew struggled to regain control, but the ship seemed to be pulling them deeper into the unknown. Elara gripped the armrest of her seat, her knuckles white. "Get the thrusters online," Elara barked. "Now." "We've lost all power to the thrusters," Ruiz cried, her hands flying across the console in a panic. "Captain, we can't control anything." Wells, her face pale, stared at the data on her screen. "It's no use. We're caught in a singularity of some kind. We can't escape." The ship lurched again, and the crew held on for dear life. For a moment there was a complete silence, broken only by the creaking of the ship. Then, suddenly, a deep, resonating voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language none of them could understand. The crew froze, looking at one another in shock. "Talking to us," Rook whispered, his voice barely audible. The strange voice continued to reverberate through the bridge, growing louder and more insistent. The crew had no idea what it was saying, but the tone was unmistakable, commanding, ancient, and filled with a sense of purpose. "Can you decode it?" Elara asked, her voice strained but calm. Wells shook her head. "It's beyond our language. It's like it's communicating directly with our minds." Suddenly, the energy in the room surged, and a holographic projection appeared before them, showing a massive, dark planet in the center of the vortex. The planet was surrounded by an array of structures, some ancient and some impossibly advanced. A network of energy seemed to be flowing from the planet, connecting everything. "It's a system," Wells said, her voice filled with awe. "A power source, unlike anything we've ever seen." "We need to go there," Elara said, her voice firm. "That's where this all leads. Prepare for a landing." The crew exchanged nervous glances as they prepared for the next phase of their journey into the unknown. The Star Voyager descended through the swirling vortex, its hull groaning under the strain as it neared the surface of the mysterious planet. The sky above was dark and foreboding, filled with swirling clouds and flashes of energy that seemed to pulse in time with the strange hum they had been hearing. Below them, the planet's surface was an endless desert of black rock and glowing alien structures that jutted out like twisted spires from the ground. "We're almost there," Elara said, her eyes fixed on the distant surface. "Brace yourselves, everyone. This landing isn't going to be easy." "Captain," Ruiz said, her voice tight with apprehension, "we've got incoming readings. There's an electromagnetic storm just ahead. It could interfere with our landing." "I'm not letting that stop us," Elara replied firmly. "Set a course for that structure. Whatever is down there, we're going to find out what it is." The ship lurched as it entered the storm's outer edge, flashes of lightning illuminating the vast desolation below. The crew held their breath as the ship fought against the violent turbulence. The Star Voyager touched down with a jarring thud, the landing gear scraping against the rocky ground. Dust and debris swirled around the ship as the storm raged outside. Elara let out a breath, her hands gripping the armrests of her seat. "We're down," she said, looking around at the crew. "Let's gear up and head out. I want a full scan of the area before we do anything else." Wells stood up, her face pale from the data they had received. "Captain, the surface readings are off the charts," The electromagnetic interference is preventing us from getting a clear picture of what's out there. Elara nodded. We'll take it slow. Let's get the evade suits on and head out. Stay in contact at all times. Rook grabbed his weapon, the tension in his movements clear. We don't know what's waiting for us down there, Captain. I'm aware of that. Elara replied, her voice firm. But we're going to find out. The crew donned their helmets, preparing for the unknown. The crew exited the ship, stepping onto the planet's surface with cautious steps. The ground beneath them was uneven and harsh, the air heavy with the charged particles of the storm that still raged above. They moved in a tight formation, each member scanning their surroundings, alert for any signs of movement or danger. This place, Ruiz whispered, her voice muffled by her helmet. It feels wrong. Elara glanced around, her eyes scanning the alien structures in the distance. Keep your eyes open. We're looking for answers. They moved forward, the storm's winds howling around them as they approached the nearest structure, a towering, twisted spire that seemed to pulse with energy. The closer they got, the more they felt the air crackle with static. Wells held up her scanner. This place is alive. It's almost like the structure itself is sending out signals. Let's get closer, Elara commanded. We're not leaving without answers. As they neared the spire, the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. A low rumble that seemed to come from deep within the planet. The structure itself hummed, its surface glowing as if it were alive, responding to the crew's presence. Elara's heart raced. Is it reacting to us? Ruiz asked, her voice shaking. I don't know, Elara replied. But we're getting closer to something big. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath them, and the crew fell into an underground chamber, their suits absorbing the impact as they landed. The chamber was vast, filled with ancient alien technology, large machines and consoles, all covered in dust and decay. The air was thick with silence. "We've found something," Wells said in awe, looking around. This was once a place of power. This is where they lived, where they thrived. Rook scanned the area. But what happened to them? We're about to find out, Elara said, her voice steady as she stood up, brushing the dust off her suit. Let's see what we can uncover. The crew moved deeper into the chamber, their footsteps echoing through the vast empty halls. Wells approached a console, her hands trembling as she worked to power it up. This is incredible, she said, her voice filled with awe. The data is still intact. They've been storing everything here. A holographic map flickered to life, showing an interconnected network of systems, star systems, and planets. At the center of it all, a symbol pulsed, an ancient emblem unlike anything the crew had ever seen. It's a map, Wells said. A map of their empire. This was the heart of their civilization. But what happened to them? Rook asked, his voice tense. Why is it all abandoned? Before anyone could answer, the console flared with energy, and a deep, resonating voice filled the chamber. The crew looked at one another in shock, as the voice spoke in an ancient, forgotten language. We've awakened something, Elara said, her voice tense. Whatever it is, it's not happy we're here. The deep, resonating voice from the console faded, leaving the crew in a tense silence. The strange energy in the chamber seemed to pulse with the rhythm of the mysterious voice, and the crew was on edge, unsure of what they had just awakened. Elara stood at the forefront, her gaze fixed on the console. What just happened? Ruiz asked, her voice tight with fear. It's like the structure has a mind of its own, Wells said, her hands still shaking from the intense energy surging through the chamber. It's almost as if it's alive. The data, it's shifting. The holographic map continued to flicker, now displaying new star systems and regions that the crew had never encountered. At the center of it all, the ancient emblem pulsed, brighter than before. We need to understand what this is, Elara said, her voice calm despite the danger. There's something hidden here, something important. Rook glanced around, his hand resting on his weapon. But what if it's more than just technology? What if it's dangerous? Elara met his gaze. We can't afford to be afraid. We need to finish what we started. As the crew gathered around the console, Trying to make sense of the shifting data, the walls of the chamber began to rumble. A low mechanical groan reverberated through the structure. "It's activating," Wells said, her voice barely audible. "The system, it's coming online." The hologram flickered and stabilized, showing detailed star maps that seemed to reach back across millennia. The map zoomed in on a star system located at the edge of the galaxy, an area that was previously unexplored. Elara leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing. "What is this system? It's not in any of our records." "I don't know," Wells replied. "But it's showing a large, complex structure, something that was built there long ago, and it's still operational." The room shook again, and the holographic map zoomed in further, revealing the shape of a massive ship, hidden beneath the surface of the planet. Rook's eyes narrowed. "Are we seeing this right? A ship buried under the planet?" Elara stood up straight. "Whatever it is, we need to go there. Prepare the landing gear. We're going down." The Star Voyager descended once again, this time toward the coordinates revealed by the ancient map. As the ship descended through the planet's atmosphere, the crew could see the outline of the massive structure, its surface partially obscured by the thick clouds of the storm. "We're approaching the site," Ruiz said, her hands flying over the control. "There's a large opening up ahead." Elara nodded, eyes narrowing as she studied the terrain. "Take us down slowly. We don't know what kind of defenses or traps might be in place." The ship descended into a massive cavern, the opening stretching wide enough to accommodate the ship. Below them, they saw what appeared to be the remains of a colossal ship, its hull buried deep within the cavern's walls. The structure looked ancient, covered in layers of dust, but there was no mistaking its size and complexity. "This is it," Wells said, her voice filled with awe. "The ship we saw in the map, it's here, and it's far more advanced than anything we've ever encountered." "We're going in," Elara said, her voice filled with determination. "Get the EVA suits on. We need to explore this ship and we need answers." The crew disembarked from the Star Voyager, stepping onto the cold metallic surface of the ancient ship. The cavern was eerily silent, the only sound the soft echo of their footsteps as they moved deeper into the structure. "This is it," Elara whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This ship has been buried for thousands of years, but it's still operational." Wells scanned the surroundings with her device, the data coming back erratically. "I'm detecting power sources, but they're faint, almost as if the ship is waiting for something." "What are we looking for?" Rook asked, his hand on his weapon. "What's the next step?" "We find the central control room," Elara said. "Whatever it takes. This ship holds the key to everything we've uncovered so far." As they moved deeper into the structure, a sudden sound echoed down the hall. A low, mechanical hum, followed by a faint flicker of light. The ship seemed to come alive, its ancient systems slowly powering up. The crew finally reached the heart of the ship, a massive, circular control room. The walls were lined with advanced technology, blinking lights and symbols that none of them recognized. At the center, a large console stood, surrounded by holographic interfaces. The entire room hummed with a strange energy. "This is it," Elara said, approaching the console. "This is where the answers lie." She reached out, and as her hand made contact with the console, the room came to life. Holograms flickered into existence, showing detailed star charts, data about the ancient civilization that once inhabited the planet, and information about the energy source that powered the ship. Wells stepped forward, her voice filled with excitement. This ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a repository, a library of knowledge. "This is the key to understanding everything we've encountered." A deep, resonating voice echoed through the chamber, and the crew froze. It was the same voice they had heard before, but now it spoke in clear, decipherable words. "You have awakened the legacy of the ancients," the voice said. "The final phase of the awakening has begun." The deep, resonant voice echoed through the control room, its tone laden with ancient power. "You have awakened the legacy of the ancients. The final phase of the awakening has begun." The words sent a ripple through the crew, a sense of dread settling over them, as the weight of the voice's meaning became clear. Elara stood frozen at the console, her hand still resting on the glowing interface. "What does it mean? What is the final phase?" she demanded. The holographic projections around them began to shift, showing star systems and planets that once thrived under the rule of an ancient empire. But now, those systems appeared abandoned, the stars darkened. The planet before them, the one they stood on, was the last outpost of a civilization that had vanished without a trace. "The empire is gone," Wells said softly, her voice filled with sorrow. "And we've awakened something that we weren't meant to find. Whatever it is, we need to understand it," Elara said, her resolve unwavering. "The future of our people could depend on it." Just as she spoke, a new hologram appeared, a strange, alien figure, unlike any humanoid the crew had seen before. The figure's eyes glowed with an eerie light as it looked directly at them, its presence overwhelming. The alien figure's voice echoed in their minds, speaking directly to each crew member. "You have come to the end of your journey, but in your awakening you have unleashed a power that you cannot control. The legacy of the ancients is both a gift and a curse." Elara stepped forward, her voice firm. "What is the purpose of this legacy? What is the power you speak of?" The figure's expression seemed to shift, its form flickering as though the very essence of its being was unstable. "The power that you have unleashed is not for the living. It is a force that transcends your understanding, beyond your ability to wield." Wells looked down at the glowing console. "It's not just technology. It's a weapon that can change the fabric of reality itself. The weapon must not be used," the figure warned. "It was created to protect, but in the wrong hands, it could destroy everything." Rook's eyes narrowed. "Then why are we here? Why show us all of this if it's too dangerous?" The figure remained silent for a moment, its gaze unyielding. "You were chosen, but it is up to you to decide if you are worthy of the legacy." As the figure's words hung in the air, the ship's systems suddenly flared, and the entire chamber shook. The crew grabbed onto the consoles for support as the room was flooded with light. The alien presence seemed to grow stronger, more intense. "We have to make a choice," Elara said, her voice filled with urgency. "We can't just leave this power here to remain hidden, but we can't risk using it either." "Maybe we don't have to make that choice," Ruiz said, looking at the map of the star systems that had appeared on the console. "Maybe there's another way, another path." Wells stepped forward, her face pale but determined. "I can try to shut down the system. If we can't control the power, maybe we can prevent it from ever activating again." Rook shook his head. "But what if that's not enough? What if shutting it down means everything we've learned is lost forever?" Elara looked at each of her crew members, seeing the fear and uncertainty in their eyes. "We need to make the decision together," she said. "But we have no time left." The tension in the room was palpable as the crew weighed their options. Wells approached the central console, her hands hovering over the controls, ready to make the final decision. "Whatever happens next, we need to be united," Elara said. "This legacy, whether it's a weapon or a tool, will shape the future of our people. We can't let it be misused." Wells nodded, her fingers moving over the interface, attempting to deactivate the power source. "I'm doing it," she said, her voice shaking with the weight of her decision. "This could work. It has to work." The room grew silent as the console hummed, the lights flickering. The alien figure, watching from the projection, said nothing, but its glowing eyes seemed to be studying them. For a moment, the entire ship seemed to freeze. The room fell silent. Then, a soft click sounded, and the power began to drain from the system. "It's working," Wells said, relief in her voice. "We've done it." With the power source deactivated, the alien figure's presence slowly faded from the room. The hum of energy stopped, and the holographic projections disappeared, leaving only the quiet hum of the ship's life support systems. "We did it," Rook said, a breath of relief escaping him. "We stopped it." Elara nodded, but her gaze remained distant. "We stopped it for now. But we don't know the full consequences of what we've uncovered. There's still so much more out there." "We'll face it together," Rui said, her voice steady. "Whatever comes next, we're ready." The crew gathered around Elara, united in their decision to protect the legacy they had uncovered. But Elara knew that their journey wasn't over. The universe was vast, and the mysteries of the stars were still waiting to be uncovered. "Let's go home," Elara said, her voice filled with resolve. "We've learned enough for now, but the journey has only just begun."